Your freedom as a writer is life at its most free, if you are fortunate enough to be able to try it, because you select your materials, invent your task, and pace yourself. The obverse of this freedom, of course, is that your work is so meaningless, so fully for yourself alone, so worthless to the world, that no one except you cares whether you do it well or ever. You are free to make 1,000 close judgment calls a day. Your freedom is a byproduct of your day's triviality. Riddles. The thinker of the future, according to Nietzsche, will have "What do I matter?" pinned above his door. Nietzsche is scathing about philosophers in general, writing that their goal is to establish the knowability of things so that they can compress the world into a solvable riddle they alone can be credited with unriddling. Next to my desk, I have pinned a copy of Suji Kwok Kim's poem, Monologue for an Onion. Kim's poem is satisfyingly brutal. I joke that I think the poem is really about writing a PhD thesis, quoting the third to last stanza. You are the one in pieces. Whatever you meant to love, in meaning to, you changed yourself. The poem comes from Kim's collection Notes from the Divided Country, which was so beautiful and violent that I could not, in fact, bear it. The poems I read stay with me like awkward ghosts, unsure of how to haunt me. I hug the book to my chest before placing it in the library return chute, as if to say I am sorry I could not take care of them. Was I afraid that by meaning to love them, I would change myself? Fernweh. Fernweh is the German word that means a longing for far-off places, in particular those we do not know or have yet to experience. A longing for an unknown place, a yearning for elsewhere, far-sickness. In English, sometimes we borrow the other German word for wanting to travel, Wanderlust. The difference between Wanderlust and Fernweh is that one expresses desire and the other gives voice to ache. One speaks of want, the other of lack. The Portuguese have a word, saudade, which translates roughly as the presence of absence, and it hinges on the same pain, the consciousness of lack, the inadequacy of what one holds. Think of my son, 4 years old, coasting down a gentle slope on his bicycle, home from kindergarten. It is a warm spring day and he has a mouthful of M&Ms. I'm not really happy, he says, turning to me. Fragments. It is a strange experience to be writing fragments about nihilism and meaning and to fear constantly that what you are making is actually meaningless, just a bunch of unfinished scraps. Departure. I was raised with stories of departure. The first time my dad left Adelaide at the age of 20, it was a disaster. The combi van he'd bought with a friend broke down soon after they left the city. The engine was fucked, my dad says mildly. Did you get conned? I ask. Oh yeah, he laughs. It had been sold to us by a crook. He'd loaded the engine up with grease and oil. My mate had this magnum of champagne that he'd brought along for us to drink the first time the van broke down. So there we were on our first day, drinking hot champagne out of a magnum bottle on the side of the road to Whyalla. Lack. In French, the verb se manquer, which means to miss, operates differently to its equivalent in English. To say I miss you in French, you must say tu me manques, which could be translated directly as you create missing in me. This renders the missing passive, something that is done by another. In English, it is active, subjective. We are in control. We are missing. In French, the other has left, the void carved out against our will. I fumble this verb regularly, rerouting it as je te manque, but that just means you miss me, or I create in you the feeling of missing. In French, I struggle to accept that the missing is a violence done to me, that I am hollowed out, I am made concave. My only choice is to reshape around the void, as if the black hole itself is a skeleton, is architecture.